So I'm Wendy here from Family Search, and I'm super excited that everyone is joining us. Please let us know where you are joining from. I'm here in downtown Salt Lake City, and I'm thrilled to be joined with David Rencher. He's calling from Riverton, Utah, right?
Correct.
Yes. So David, will you tell us just a little bit about you and what you do at Family Search and how long you've been at Family Search?
Oh, goodness. Well, I've been at Family Search for many years. This is my 40th year at Family Search. I'm currently the director of the Family History Library and also the Chief Genealogical Officer at Family Search. So I've seen many, many, many changes, and we're in the midst of continuing to make many, many, many changes. And so you'll see a little bit of that today. We are just trying to move into the future and keep things humming, and we're just having a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you're the guy in charge of the library and you've been at Family Search for 40 years. Before we get into kind of what we're going to cover today, which is we're going to talk all things library, tell me a little bit about why you're so interested in family history and sort of, has this been something you've always been interested in? Kind of what is about family history and genealogy that you enjoy?
Well, I don't think there's any aspect of it that I don't enjoy. I got interested after I was in my early 20s. And then I transferred from Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona to Brigham Young University. At the time, I was a music major. I was going down the music education path. Finally decided that wasn't the path I wanted to go. So I changed my major to business. At Brigham Young University and opened up the catalog, and here's a family history class. And so I said, well, that looks like that might be fun. And so on top of all my business courses that semester, I took this family history class. Well, it was fun. And so the next semester I took another one, and then I took another one, and then I took another one. And here we are 40 years later because I switched my major from business to family history. So
I love
it's just a lot of fun.
So you've been doing, you've been an active participant, not only professionally, but personally ever since college.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Probably have hundreds, if not thousands, of connections and friends in the genealogy industry. You're very well known.
Well, that's what's so cool about it. It's about the people, and that's what I love about it. And we just continue to network. This this current situation is really putting a damper on it, but now we're connecting online, and so we're having a lot of calls and a lot of Zoom meetings and Teams meetings and everything else. But it's very cathartic to reach out to my colleagues in the community and say, hey, how is it at your library? Because here's how it is at our library.
Okay, speaking of how it is at the library, make sure that you guys let us know where you're calling from, and we've got moderators on that can answer questions. But I think what we're all excited about today is that David's here, but that he's going to talk to us about the library, and we're also going to cover NGS, and then we'll take questions. So if there's questions you have for David, make sure you leave them in the comments. But just want to make sure that everyone is with us and you can hear us. We'll watch to make sure that you're able to follow along. So, okay, can you tell us more about what happened at the library during the Utah earthquake? And I think you've got some slides for us, right?
I do have some slides, and hopefully hopefully you'll see that. So we have had an interesting ride. As you know, we closed our doors at 5 p.m. on the 13th of March this year. We closed within just hours of many of the other genealogical facilities throughout the country. And so it was a decision that wasn't reached lightly. We deliberated for about 3 days. We looked at all the data. And in accordance with everything else that was going on at the time, we made the decision to close. And so when we did that, we basically moved to an online environment. So the beauty of Family Search is that we have so many online tools and so many things that we can do in an online environment. And so we tried to shift our work there. We have billions of images that are available online. We have help, we have all of these kinds of things that people can continue to do their family history, albeit not in our specific facility. So when we looked at going to these places, we actually looked at some things that were going on. And then lo and behold, just after the closure here in Salt Lake City, we had an earthquake. And so there actually were some blessings of it coming while we were closed, because from the pictures you'll see here in a moment, the good news was we only had a couple people in the building that were trying to do some things, and it was early in the morning, and so luckily we didn't have the challenge that we would have had we had the building full of both staff, missionaries, volunteers, and guests.
Okay.
So one of the things we know is we know the exact time the earthquake occurred because the clock fell off the wall, the battery popped out, and the clock shattered. So we know exactly when the earthquake occurred on the 18th of March. And so we'd only been closed for 5 days, as I said earlier. And so this was kind of a fun thing. The night of the 18th of March, I, along with my assistant director, Lynn Turner, we walked through the facility to get an assessment of the damage. There were still some aftershocks. We felt like we needed to check on the facility and make sure that there were so many things. I mean, you have fire suppression systems that if we had leaks, if we had water, if, you know, so many things that could be going on in the building. And we wanted to make sure that the collection and stuff was secure and safe. And so we did a quick walkthrough, snapped a few photos. And so there was damage in some of the staff areas. You can see ceiling lights and tiles falling out of the ceiling. Like I say, it's good that there weren't staff in the building at the time. They may have been injured. So what's happened since that time is the repairs have been made. So the picture on the left is after the earthquake damage, and the picture on the right is the repairs have all been made. So at this point, basically all of the repairs have been made to the building. Okay. So don't let these next pictures disturb you too much. It's all been dealt with. But this was the scene that greeted us when we went in on the evening of the 18th of March. You can see again a number of ceiling tiles, light fixtures. Books had fallen off the shelves. There was some damage to the spines of some of the books, which we obviously have sent out. We've taken care of those. We've repaired those, or are in the process of repairing those. And so the good news is this is the before picture. This is the after picture. I can assure you everything's been put back together. It's been cleaned up. The books have been refiled where they're supposed to be. And so, you know, when we're to the point where we are ready to reopen, the effects of the earthquake, you won't see. It will be a moment in history, but most of you will never have seen anything about it except these pictures.
Here. Yes.
So these were the microfilm cabinets. Mm-hmm. And so while the drawers came open and some of the ceiling tiles again fell out, that's where we had probably the most damage, was with ceiling tiles throughout the building. Basically, all it took to clean this up, obviously, was to just go down the row and shut all the drawers. So we didn't have films falling out. We tended to have more activity and damage, as you would imagine, in the floors that were above ground. We didn't have much at all. We didn't have any books, for example, fall off the shelves on the B1 and the B2 floors that are both below ground. There wasn't much disturbance to the film cabinets, so there were some learnings too from.
Yes, what types of things? Like what were some of the learnings?
Well, so this one, for example, just the books and the films, and so it helps us look at things and evaluate things of what materials should be stored on the lower floors and what should be on the upper floors. Mm-hmm. And so we may want to look at things differently in the future of how we run the programs in the building and how we do that. So not ready to make any decisions or any changes, but it was just a good experience. You know, this earthquake was it was large enough to get our attention and small enough to not do serious damage. So, you know, if the thing went up by an order of magnitude, obviously we would have had some pretty serious damage. I didn't mention, when you were looking at the book aisles, those all had you can see those bars across the tops of the shelves. Those are all earthquake supports. So all of the bookcases were secured at the top and bolted into the wall so that none of the bookcases could fall over. So we didn't have any bookcases fall over.
Okay, that's good.
They were shaking and rumbling and doing that kind of thing, but they weren't. They don't fall over. So even if there had been people in the building, they weren't in danger of these falling over on them. So that's just something that
good
we
to
already
know that people are safe.
Yeah, we already had that in place as a safety and a security measure. So that was already there. So we obviously are continuing to do work in this distributed work environment. And so changes continue to go on and continue to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
We aren't letting that slow down. We had a number of work orders that were already in process, things that we're looking at doing. So when you are able to return to the library, you'll probably begin to notice some of these. In February, we put up signage on the outside of the building. You'll see the Family Search signs there that are lit up and are lighted at nighttime. I like it because now we don't look like just a gray government building up the street.
I love the lit signs. It looks great. Yes.
Yeah, so we were very pleased with that. One of the things that we wanted to address was the front of the building, and that is that the Family History Library name on the front didn't pop very well because it just kind of blended into the building, and you can kind of see that more in the right-hand picture there. And so we're aware that this is starting to look very busy. So those squares that are above now the new Family Search logo on the front of the building will come off the building. So it will kind of declutter it a little bit. We don't want it to be too busy, right. But it will pop and it will look very nice, I think, when we're done.
Oh yeah, that's exciting.
So this next part, my staff hasn't seen yet. So they're going to be, if they're watching Family Search Facebook Live today, they're in for a treat.
Yes, this is just breaking news.
Yeah,
right
this
is
it. So you're gonna be right there with the first to know. So on the third floor, one of our goals is to bring back a number of the published family histories and the books and the other things. And so we will be extending all of the bookcases out another pillar. So the work order, the purchase order for all of the book shelving has been made. If we can, we will get those installed while the building is still closed. So when you come back in, you may see a whole new set of bookshelves on the third floor. The other thing that we have done, we have 2 glassed-in conference rooms on the third floor, and on the second floor, we're adding television monitors to those rooms so that you can project something up. So people like to hold family meetings in there. They like to put their tree up. They like to discuss. This is a place where they can gather around a table, have a family discussion, look at things online, and be able to display it there on those television screens. So those rooms have had a whiteboard and just the table space, and that's all they've had. They've had electricity for, to run a laptop or something to hold a meeting, but they will not have video conferencing capabilities. That requires a whole new level of wiring into the building, but we were able to get those. And so those work orders, we're trying to complete those as well. So the other floor that will be affected that you will notice is the B2 floor, the British floor, and there will be a number of bookshelves added there. That will allow us to bring all of the British books that are in high density storage out back onto the floor. So all of that will happen as well. There will be more changes down the line. This is all a very phased approach. We've been working on installing new computer terminals. We have a work order in for the flat table space. That purchase order has been delayed because that company is currently only filling orders that are critical for the medical community. Oh. So they have pushed our production of those back. Otherwise, those would have arrived during this time period and would have been installed as well. So just have to be a little bit patient and watch for that to continue to push back a little bit. So
how exciting.
Yeah, so this is all part of the overall plan of just trying to get us back up to the status where we want to be, and to be able to feel like we are giving as much access to the collection as possible. And so you'll just continue to see these changes roll out. We still have a number of other changes that we want to do. So we're doing updating on all of the floors other than the main floor. The main floor had its makeover. We do actually have some construction coming up on the main floor, but that's for another day. But that'll be pushed back a little bit. So it's like I say, all of this is still continuing to go forward, even though we're out of the office, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't let it interrupt anything that we're trying to do. Once we get the available materials, we'll continue to move forward with that.
So talk
yes.
a little bit about, before we talk about NGS, you just showed us, for those who are just joining, we're joined by David Rencher, and he's the Chief Genealogical Officer of Family Search, and he also runs the library. So we were talking about some changes to the library, the impact of the earthquake, and we're gonna go over NGS. But so what kinds of things will be in place before you reopen the library, and what's that process like to think through that?
Yeah, so we've got a whole series, as you may well imagine, of factors that regulate when we will reopen. We do not have a reopen date scheduled at this point. I do not know a date.
Okay.
We are one of a number of public-facing entities as part of the church's downtown campus. So there are other areas on Temple Square and other buildings. You've got the Church History Library, you've got the Church History Museum, you've got all of these other entities. You've got the public-facing venues in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of restaurants there, that type of thing. You've got the Lion House, you've got the Beehive House, you've got all of these public-facing entities. So part of the direction that we will get will come from our church leaders as to when to reopen those.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously are looking at a number of procedures, things that we would do. There's a very good chance that the reopening will take place in phases.
Okay.
That there will be phases it could involve fewer hours per day. It could involve a number of different things. Limited staff. We may not need as many missionaries on site as we normally do. We don't know how many guests are going to feel comfortable coming to a public environment.
Come. Yeah.
Right. So there are many unknowns here.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting direction both obviously from the governor's office and from the Salt Lake City mayor's office. Mm-hmm. And if you've watched the news, sometimes they don't always agree. But,
yes, this is true.
And so that we've got to make sure that they're on the same page with when the possible reopening is. The state published yesterday a plan for reopening, and obviously we're watching that very closely. We're looking at all of the internal procedures of how we practice safety and distance and disinfecting and all of those types of things. So there are a number of factors leading to that ramp up of when we will be open.
Okay, thank you for that. And how is the library staff and the volunteers and the missionaries? I bet they're all so eager to come back. We had someone, I think it was Sue, someone who said they just want to return home. They want to come back to the library. So not only do we have our patrons who want to come, but also the staff. How are they doing?
Right. So, it's been pointed out that nobody's having the same experience
Yes.
during this time as everyone else. And so we can't compare our experience to other people's experiences. And so we have staff who are home with young kids and they're trying to work while they've got young kids running around. We have other staff who live alone. And so, it's hard for them to shut off their brain at night. And so they're just working straight through till midnight and getting around and getting up and starting at 6 a.m. again. And because what else are they going to do? Right.
Yes. Yes.
And so we have a number of staff that obviously want to engage. We're looking at more ways to engage online.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at a number of different ways that we can still create a guest experience and do those kinds of things which would help people at this time to make plans, to solve problems, to find resources,
Get help.
all of those kinds.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know that this is something also that is a big part of the genealogy community. There's a number of conferences, there's tons of groups who come and visit the library or who hold conferences nearby because it's such a resource. And so I think let's talk about what you're doing with NGS and tell us what NGS stands for. And if you have questions for David, you can start putting them in the chat and we will be able to answer some of those after we go through this update.
So thank you for that, that question. NGS stands for the National Genealogical Society. Before we talk specifically about their event, I do want to mention that we have had a number of other genealogical societies who plan annual trips to the library. And there are multiple groups that come throughout the year. They bring anywhere from 30 people to 100 people in those groups. They stay at nearby hotels. Many of them have had to either push back their trip to next year, or in some instances they've pushed it back to the fall, hoping that, you know, we'll be reopened, but they're playing it by ear. They're keeping their options open. The hotels have been extremely good to work with them and totally understanding of what's going on with them. So the National Genealogical Society found itself in this really unique position. Somehow, miraculously, we were able to execute our Roots Tech conference hosted by Family Search.
Yes, right before everything shut down.
Exactly. So right on the heels of that, things began to deteriorate very rapidly. The National Genealogical Society's conference was scheduled for May, late May. Nobody knew, right? We just simply didn't know. Are we going to be open? Are we going to be closed? I couldn't even tell them whether or not the library was going to be open.
Mm-hmm.
This was where we were, you know, the Salt Lake mayor was saying that they were going to shelter in place in the city of Salt Lake until a certain date. And then she got on the news and said, well, it may go till the 1st of June. Well, that was past the NGS conference. And so leaders there worked diligently to monitor the situation,
Mm-hmm.
to understand their relationships with the hotels and with the convention center. Just as an aside, the president of the National Genealogical Society is himself a practicing attorney.
Oh, wow.
So it was extremely helpful for him to just be able to monitor and look at those kinds of things. So in the end, they were able to move their event to a virtual event. I was grateful for that because if they had gone ahead and come to town and the library wasn't open, that wouldn't have been a great experience for everybody.
Yes.
So with that virtual event, they are going to do a live event on the 20th of May.
Okay.
The National Genealogical Society Conference is a paid event. So those listening online, that is something that you would have to go to their website and sign up for if you wanted to. The Family History Library staff, as part of that event, were slated to give a number of workshops. Specifically workshops on, these are 2-hour workshops specifically geared toward Nordic research, Native American research, German research, Irish research, Italian research, and Hispanic research. And so what NGS has decided to do, those were all paid events. What NGS is going to do is to push those now to the week of July 13th through the 17th. So rather than try to do them live simultaneously with their conference, they're going to push the workshops back. So people will still, if they're interested in any of those workshops, they'll still be able to go sign up for those workshops on the NGS website. So just
we'll put a link to that in the in our chat. So for anyone who wants to know more about that, they can follow.
Right. So the National Genealogical Society Conference every year draws, you know, upwards of 2,000 people to a specific event, to a specific locality. They move around the country every year. So they provide a great on-site event. Obviously, once you go virtual, then you don't have an exhibit hall experience, right? So it will be a different conference. And I just cannot applaud the leaders of NGS enough for managing and navigating these waters. It's been very difficult. I've been in constant communication with them. And so we have just been waiting until they could kind of announce their plans and move forward. So the event's still going to happen. It's just not going to happen precisely here in Salt Lake City, and we're not going to have kind of the interaction with the library that we had anticipated when they started planning this event 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, wow. Well, I love how, like you said, the community is so connected and everyone's coming together to kind of come up with a solution. And I'm sure people are disappointed, but it's good that this is available for those that still want to participate.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited about the participation by the staff. They're excited, but this is a different type of interactive presentation. So it's a whole lot different to do something online than to be able to see people's faces, see people's responses, respond to people raising their hands, asking questions. It's a different environment.
Yeah, such a different experience. And for those of you with us today, we appreciate you taking time out to join us for our virtual live stream, where we get to talk about all things that we love with family history, and especially focused on the library and the NGS conference here with David Rencher. So any more updates on NGS, or do you think we covered that?
Well, certainly they're providing updates on their website, and so I would point people to their website to go get the latest information on that. They have some absolute leading lights in the country speaking on their live event. It's, these are people who do this professionally and who really know this information. They're top-notch speakers, so it's a great event every year.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
I'm just miss seeing all my friends and
it's so
rubbing shoulders with them. Yeah, so
that's the hardest. That's such a challenge, not being able to be with people.
Yeah, luckily we got a little bit of that out of our system at Rootstick. So
yes. Okay, so are you ready to take some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll have you stop sharing, and then we'll see you. And I've got a couple of questions that we've got. Somebody, Christine, is asking on about the British floor. Have you removed microfilm, real drawers, or readers or computers to make room for the additional bookcases?
So it's a great question. Thank you. First and foremost, we haven't removed any film from the library. What we did was we collapsed the empty space out of those drawers and then removed some empty cabinets out of the library.
Okay, so you didn't remove.
We've not removed any film. We're actually adding flat table space to the B2 floor. I don't know if you remember seeing from the diagram there, but we actually will have more tables than we had previously, which will accommodate some of our groups that come in, particularly the British Institute that comes every fall. Those tables are heavily used on the B2 floor, so we're aware of that. We will, now that we've been able to move our film scanners out of that kind of copy center area, we'll be able to move our map cabinets and some other things over into that space and fully utilize that space and free up floor space there. So basically all you'll see is some stuff that we have shifted around and will shift around on the B2 floor, but we're not removing things like that. We're not taking, we will take the 1985 tables out of the library at some point. Okay, that I can promise you. So when they ask, are you removing any tables? I have to very honestly say, yes, I will remove some tables, but I am replacing them with brand new upgraded tables from 2020. So hopefully they're a little better. As far as film readers, we still have plenty of film readers and scanners. And we have both experiences. So we have provided some rooms where we have put some of the old style microfilm readers. You can still have the old style microfilm reading experience if you want. And then we have the new upgraded reader stations with multiple screen monitors and with Scan Pro readers in them. So we actually purchased somewhere between 50 and 60 new Scan Pro readers to go out on those reader stations.
Oh, this is awesome. Okay, we've got a handful of questions.
All right.
Kathy wants to know, and I think this is a great question, does the library collect family or individual histories written by family members? You know I've seen this question before. What do you guys do with that?
So it's a great question, and it gives me a great opportunity to clarify. So absolutely not. First and foremost, if you publish a family history on your family, if that's a publication, we would love to receive a copy, and yes, we do collect those. What we are not, that sometimes people don't understand, is we are not a repository of original documents. Okay. So if you have a box of family papers, we're not going to take that. If you have images of a box full of family papers, we might consider it. Even those we kind of qualify. So we're not a repository where like university manuscript libraries are, or the Massachusetts Historical Society, or even New England Historic Genealogical Society. They receive family collections of papers and have family papers deposited there. We do not do that. But anything published, we would love to receive a copy.
Okay, so Kathy, there's your answer. Yes, the library would love to receive that. Okay, so someone, Leanne is asking, any tips for doing research remotely while the library is closed?
So there are a number of different ways that you can do that. One of the features that is probably not utilized that Family Search makes as a service are our communities pages. Mm-hmm. And the communities pages give you the ability to throw out questions about your research in a specific area. So for example, if you are doing German research, we have a German communities page. You can go on the page, you can ask for help. We have a number of people who will pitch in, give credible answers and credible information there. The same for Ireland, or for England, or for the US. And so the communities pages in Family Search, and Wendy, I think you have a link for that you're going to provide as well.
We will put that in there. And aren't some of the, and maybe you mentioned this, but some of the research assistants are helping also as well. So right?
So many of our staff, our reference consultants, are monitoring those community pages, and they are giving answers in the community pages as well. So
take advantage.
Yeah, expert help. They're in a position where they can actually monitor the community pages more now than they can when the library is open.
Yeah, because they're not helping patrons in person. So
right. So they keep that window open, and they just kind of monitor that throughout the day.
Okay, so did you have another answer to that question? That was a good one, the communities. Okay, so Leanne, there you go. And then I know we've been, a lot of people have asked, how come they can't access records that they can only access when they're in a facility? Will you explain that too, so people understand that we would love to make everything available?
We do. So when we go out and negotiate for records, our first and foremost negotiating position is we want to make the records freely available to everyone. That's our starting position. In some instances, some of the custodians are not, the record custodians are not comfortable just making it freely available. And so on stuff that we had microfilmed, for example, years ago, so we started filming in 1938, they basically come back and they say, no, users of your facilities can only have the same rights to those images as when we granted the rights on microfilm, which means that you would have to be in one of your facilities to view those images. And so that's when we have to restrict them to our facilities. So with that, then those get restricted. Mm-hmm. There are a few other instances where they come back and they say, no, we're not going to give you any digital rights. So then there's this very long, awkward pause.
Very long, awkward.
To which we say, well, then why did we image your records for you? What was in it for us? And so after another very long, awkward pause, they generally will relent and say, well, okay, you can make them available to members of your church, but nobody else. Oh. And so, that's kind of our retrenching. That's our last fallback position. And so we literally do have a few custodians who are just, that's the position they've taken. They're all in different spaces. So some of them are public. They cannot charge for their records. Or they can't give them, for example, to a commercial vendor, or all of those kinds of situations, whatever their situation is. If it's a public record, it has to be free. And that's what drives a lot of these negotiations. So we've had to go back and renegotiate every contract and look at those. And so we've got a team that just, my hat's off to them, because they get to spend all day long begging for permissions. So we apologize if the images you want aren't available. We don't fully control that. So
that, I appreciate you explaining that, because many people have asked that. And like you said, it's the record custodians.
It's, out of the billions and billions of images that we have, it's almost guaranteed that the image you want is one of the ones that's restricted. I don't know how the odds go, but that's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, so we're sorry. Okay, Grant is asking, when a microfilm reel is digitized and put online, does the microfilm get removed from the draw? If not, does the film box get marked as being available online?
So great question. We have not at this point been removing films that have been digitized. Many of the films that are in the library have been digitized. Mm-hmm. We do not mark those on the box, rather we mark those in the catalog. And so in the catalog, it will say, for a digital image of this collection, click here. Mm-hmm. Or it will give you the camera icon with the film number. So no, we don't go back through and mark all the boxes in the drawers to tell you whether or not those are digitized.
Okay, good question, Grant. Now, how, like, if you were to describe the library and the amount of information it houses, like, how would you describe that? Because there's books, there's maps, there's microfilm, there's lots of different types of information. Do you have any way to describe how much information the library holds physically?
Well, the metaphor we've tried to use previously is in relation to the number of images, the number of films, that type of thing. We basically estimated it to be about 18 times the Library of Congress. And so we've collected a lot of records for a lot of years, and we have hundreds of millions, equating to billions of images that we have acquired. We have a number of books, and we are still continuing to acquire books at an accelerated rate. We've been able to get additional funding to accelerate our rate of book purchases. So we are trying to do a number of things to just stay current, mm-hmm. make sure that we get all of the stuff that is currently under copyright and that it's available to users as they come into the library.
Okay, we have a couple of questions, and I'm not sure that this is, we haven't talked about this, but people are really curious about the 1950s census. And are you familiar with what the process is going to be to index or digitize that? What do you know about it that you can speak to?
About all I can speak to is the discussions among the staff are going on as to what we will do in relation to the 1950 census. Mm-hmm. We led the charge with the 1940 census. I think many people are basically looking to us and say, okay, so are you guys going to lead the charge with the 1950 census, which is probably what's prompting the question. How we acquire it, how we index it, that hasn't all been determined. Certainly the National Archives and Records Administration drives a lot of that, and when it will be made available and how it will be made available. But we're going through much the same process of determining what will be done in the same way that we did with the 1940 census. Okay. I'm probably losing more sleep over the 1960 census.
Oh, why?
Since
tell us about that.
It's preserved on IBM punch cards, so it's going to be a fun one to index.
Oh. Okay.
And just imagine seeing an image of your IBM punch card online. That's,
there's nothing. Like, there's no context. There's nothing.
Yeah. So the next one's going to be more exciting than the 1950 to me.
Okay. That's a good little insight. Okay. Another question I have for you is how, when people come to the library, what is their main area of interest? Is there something that everybody always does, especially when they travel from out of town? Like, talk to us about that.
So one of the things that the library, being part of the downtown campus of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints headquarters, It has a dual purpose. So we have researchers who know how to do genealogical research. The library is a destination for them. For those who are just casually visiting or passing through Salt Lake, it's a tourist site in some ways. On the main floor, we've created a discovery experience so that we can create an experience that's about you when you walk through the door. How can we make this about you? How can we touch your heart? How can we help you feel something towards your family that inspires you to want to learn more, or to capture a memory, talk to a grandparent, ask them about their service in World War II?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is there something that we can do to just spark that little bit of interest? And so we have this very diverse group of visitors to the library each and every day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are people who believe that those agendas are in conflict. So when you walk into the main floor, it's very live. It does not sound like an academic library on the main floor.
It's very lively, and there's lots of people.
It's very lively. We have a number of youth groups that come in. Mm-hmm. And so we're still trying to serve that audience, and we want them to have as good an experience as the academic who wants to have a research experience. And so we have spaces now on the floors that will do that. One of the outcomes of changing what we are changing on the third floor is that the noise level on the third floor will go down because a lot of the account creation and the computer stations and that will have to be moved off of that floor. And so for people wanting to do academic research, the third floor may become their haven of bastion of silence. So it will be a little bit more quiet. We have just tried to meet that audience wherever they are in their experience. We have busloads of people coming from other countries all over the world, right? And so they have a limited amount of time. When they get sent to the library, it's like, you know, the bus tour operator says, okay, you've got 30 minutes to go over to the library. Well, what do I provide for them in 30 minutes time?
Yeah.
So those are the challenges.
Yeah, this is great because you serve a huge audience that's global, and then the attention span or the time that they have is different. I've got another question for you, and this one's about the books. And this is Grant, and he wants to know what percentage of the books that do you have permission to digitize and make available online? And of those, do you know what percentage of those have been digitized?
I can't talk in specific percentages. Right now, what we are working through is a number of permissions with copyright. The challenge here is that we have to research each and every book and determine whether or not the copyright was renewed. Many authors did not renew their copyright after 20 years. And so many of those books that we have digitized can be made available. But I've got about 200,000 books that are in that category of needing research to determine copyright. If the copyright has been renewed, then we are looking at, can we purchase another copy of the book? Can we acquire it? Can we put it on the shelf? So we're in this in-between space right now where we have a number of books in the catalog that you cannot view. You can't see it digitally and you can't see it physically. We are trying to correct all of those so that our goal is that you will be able to see every book that we have in the catalog, either digitally or physically, and look at it some way. We're also looking at other options to other services. I can just tell you, I think we're very forward thinking in solutions for all of these issues. And we know that there are issues with our clientele. So
yeah, and you're always looking at innovative ways and that you can make records available. So I think that's something to be commended. My last question is, people have been wondering about the webinars and the classes. They're not happening in the library, but there's many still available, right?
There are many webinars and classes going online. We're continuing to produce those. We're having some great classes online, a lot of fun with those. There are just an awful lot in our resource library as well. So the online library just has tons and tons of classes.
So this is another way that you can, if you're home and you're not able to come to the library, you can attend a webinar, or you can look at the ones that have already been um, produced, and we'll make sure that we put a link in there so people can find that out. And as we wrap up, I would love for you to just speak a little. You showed us some of the plans for some of the construction changes. Can you just give us a little tease of what you and your team are dreaming about for the library? You know, because no one's going to watch this and it's not recorded.
I won't be held accountable for anything I say, right?
No, you won't. We'll just say, you know, maybe in the future we might, but really, I know that you've got some really great people over there who are innovative and dreaming big. Can you just give us a little peek into what that might look like?
I am blessed right now with just an incredible staff, an incredible management team. They're forward thinking. This is actually my second time as director of the library. So this time I came back in the fall of 2018, but I was also director of the library from 1999 through the Salt Lake Winter Olympics in 2002. At that time, of course, that was before a bunch of our stuff had begun to go online. We didn't have any images online. We didn't have any books scanned and online. And so at that time, I was literally walking through the library, looking at the physical entities, saying, okay, here I've got a collection of 400,000 books. How am I going to make those books available to everybody throughout the world? Mm-hmm. And so that's when we started working with our partner at Brigham Young University and began scanning books and started to put those up online. And it's just grown until we have hundreds of thousands of volumes online. We're now working with partner institutions throughout the country, and we're going global with that to scan books now internationally as well. So that is making a huge difference. Well, then we looked at, of course, film, and we know about the digital program to take our film online. So we still have other pieces of it. We still have this fabulous map collection. We still have all of the microfiche collection. And so I still look at every one of those and say, okay, so how is that going to be made available to the world? Yes. Literally, the way the staff thinks right now is, how do we take the Family History Library global? How do we make the knowledge and the collection and the content available internationally and serve a worldwide audience? So we're open an extended number of hours. That stretches the staff. I am in a camp. My mantra is, if we're open, we're open. And so that's all services, all floors, all desks. If we're open, we're open. And I expect you to be able to get the same quality of help and assistance at 8 a.m. as I do at 9 p.m. When the library closes. So that is a challenge. I will tell you, it has stretched the staff. We've added to the staff. We've been able to beef up a little bit, and we're continuing to work to do that. But we have a number of things that are just specific challenges. So I'm still thinking globally in terms of this library. So
this is exciting. I like that. Just listening to you describe how you appreciate your staff and how you guys are dreaming big. And I think that's wonderful. Okay, so I think we are ready to wrap up. And is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers before we end today's live stream? And thank you to everyone for participating and asking questions. And we are just here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Mountain Daylight Time on Facebook. And tomorrow, and David, I'll give you a chance to speak, but I thought I would just jump in. Tomorrow we are doing a Spanish live stream with Debbie Gertler, who works at the library, and Edgar Gomez, both Family Search employees. So they will be talking about resources, Spanish resources here. So join us tomorrow if that's of interest to you. But David, what is your last message for our audience?
Well, I think the last message is just how concerned we are about each and every guest that comes to the library. Mm-hmm. The experience is all about you. It's not about us. It's not about how large the collection is. It's not about how long we've been here. This is not a chest pounding activity. This is, how can we make your experience uniquely about you, and how can we help what you are trying to do? And that's really where the focus is. And that's the experience that we want you to have. When you come in, You are our guests there, and we want to do everything we can to create a very meaningful experience for you and to assist you in any way possible. And, you know, we've got people that wander in off the street and they say, I have no idea why I'm here. You know, I mean, they wandered in, they were almost drawn in. It's almost like me in a candy store. You know, I'm in the candy store before I know it. And so they suddenly find themselves there. And the really neat thing is that before they leave, they've had an incredible experience. You know, we've helped them connect in ways that they never dreamed of. So it's all about the guest, and it will, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it will always be all about the guest. So do we have a great collection? Yes. Do we have a great building? Yes. Do